The emergency beacon cut through the twilight silence of Krivak's prime like a blade. Rasha's ears flattened against her skull as the distress call echoed across the canyon, the universal signal that cubs were missing from the den. She moved with fluid grace, her massive form a blur of silver-striped fur and corded muscle, as she bounded across the rocky terrain. Behind her, the pack followed, their growls low and anxious. 3 cubs, 3 of her own blood, vanished during the afternoon rest cycle. The human settlement sat at the edge of their territory, a collection of prefabricated structures that had appeared 6 lunar cycles ago. Rasha had tolerated the intrusion because the humans kept their distance, observed but did not interfere. All except one, Eli Marin. The biologist had been assigned to study their pack, to document what the Galactic Council called apex predator behavioral patterns. Rasha had watched him from afar, noting how he moved carefully, spoke softly, and never carried weapons. He was small by her standards, fragile with that strange furless skin that seemed so vulnerable to Krivak's harsh environment. But he respected boundaries. And in the 6 months since his arrival, he had never once threatened her pack. Now, as the search entered its 4th hour and the 2 moons rose overhead, Rasha's anxiety transformed into something sharper. Fear. The cubs were too young to survive a night alone. The canyon harbored creatures far more dangerous than her kind. Serpents that struck from beneath the sand, raptors that descended from the cliffs. The pack split into groups, covering every crevice and burrow within a 5-kilometer radius. Rasha's own search brought her closer to the human settlement than she'd ever ventured before. She could smell the metal and plastic, the strange chemical scents that clung to everything the humans touched. And then, underneath those foreign odors, she caught something familiar. Milk scent. The distinct sweetness of her cubs. Rasha's lips curled back, exposing fangs as long as a human forearm. If something had happened to her young, if the humans had taken them for their experiments. She moved like a shadow between the structures, following the scent trail to a small habitat unit set apart from the others. Through the transparent viewing panel, she could see inside. What she saw made her freeze. Eli Marin sat against the far wall, his back propped against what appeared to be a thermal sleeping unit. And on his chest, curled together in a pile of striped fur and tiny claws, were her 3 missing cubs. They were fast asleep, their sides rising and falling in perfect contentment. The human's eyes were closed, his head tilted back, breathing deep and even. One of his hands rested gently on the smallest cub's back, her daughter barely 2 weeks old. The other hand had fallen to his side, palm up, as if he'd been trying to keep them from rolling off his chest even in sleep. Rasha's initial surge of rage faltered. She circled the structure, searching for a way in, and found the entrance panel slightly ajar. She nudged it open with her snout and slipped inside, her massive frame barely fitting through the human-sized doorway. The sound of her entry should have woken Eli immediately. Any creature with proper survival instincts would have jolted alert at the presence of a 200-kilogram predator. But the human simply stirred slightly, his eyes opening halfway. "Rasha," he murmured, his voice thick with exhaustion. "They're okay. They wandered into the canyon. I found them near the serpent nests." The implications hit her like a physical blow. The serpent nests. Her cubs had been seconds away from death. I couldn't leave them," Eli continued, barely awake. "Too cold for them out there. Brought them here. Kept them warm." His hand moved almost unconsciously, stroking her daughter's fur. "Tried to call you, but the beacon was broken. Was going to bring them to your den at sunrise." Rasha stepped closer, her massive head now level with the humans. She could kill him with one bite. Every instinct in her body recognized him as prey, small, vulnerable, defenseless. But those same instincts also recognized something else. He had saved her cubs, not captured them, not harmed them, saved them. And more than that, he had given them his own warmth, his own comfort, sacrificing his rest to ensure their safety. She could see the exhaustion in his face, the way his body sagged with weariness. He had stayed awake for hours, keeping them secure. The smallest cub, her daughter, stirred and mewed softly. Eli's eyes opened fully then, and he seemed to suddenly realize the full weight of his situation. An alpha female predator stood less than a meter away, her teeth capable of crushing his skull like an eggshell. "I'm sorry," he whispered, I didn't mean to, I just wanted them safe. Rasha's response was not conscious. It came from somewhere deeper than thought, from the ancient part of her brain that recognized truth from deception, ally from enemy. She lowered her great head and pressed her snout gently against Eli's shoulder. The human went rigid with shock. Then, carefully, Rasha began to gather her cubs, lifting each one by the scruff of their neck as they protested sleepily. She deposited them by the entrance, making 3 trips, but before she took the last one, she turned back to Eli. The human watched her with those strange, expressive eyes that showed fear, yes, but also wonder. And something else. Kindness. Rasha made a low sound in her throat, something between a growl and a purr. In her species, it was a sound of gratitude, of recognition. Of pack. She lifted the last cub and paused at the doorway. Eli had risen to his feet, swaying slightly. "Will they be okay?" he asked. Rasha's answer was a single, deliberate nod. Then she vanished into the night, her cubs secure, her pack complete. The next morning, when the Galactic Council's Oversight Committee questioned why the alpha female predator had allowed a human to approach within 5 meters of her den, Eli Marin simply smiled. "We have an understanding," he said. And in the canyon, as Rasha nursed her cubs in the safety of her den, she looked toward the human settlement and made that same sound again. The sound of pack, of trust, of an alliance forged not through words, but through a single act of compassion on a cold alien night. Humans, she thought, were strange creatures indeed, but perhaps not so different after all.